It's a massive opportunity for us to showcase specific areas we deal with. Myself, I've actually a great relationship with this club. As my brother there, Johnny Wilson, and anytime I've ever come over here, I've had some very positive experience. One, we're either winning a match, playing Nottingham RFC, or the second, we're having a great night out. Hopefully we'll be knocking another one of them out tonight, okay? So my own role around Munster Rugby, okay, is the rehab coordinator. And this whole process is a very complex process. And it's my job to make sure that it actually works efficiently. So today I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you our return to play strategies that we use in order to bring players back. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to go through our philosophy first of all, the system we have behind it, and then the process in which we use to deal with these players on a long-term basis and a weekly basis. So our philosophy is based around bringing the player back as quickly and as safely as we possibly can. But not only that, right? Once the player gets injured, we see an opportunity in front of us. It's a massive coaching opportunity for us as a team. This automatically becomes a mini pre-season for us to develop a complete athlete. And this sets a positive environment around the injury immediately. And we relay this to the player. But not only are we going to return him back to the field of play, we will return him back ready to perform at the highest level. And in order to accelerate this process and to make it efficient, we need to work as one team. And when I say we, I mean the backroom staff between the medical department, physiotherapy department, nutritional department, strength conditioning department, psychology department. Everyone is involved. And that one team to the player. The player now should see us as the second team within the organisation. We're going to work with one objective. We'll speak with one language between departments, and more importantly, to the athlete. So it avoids any confusion around his process. The one language could be as simple as, we are all singing off the same hymn sheet as you were out for 3 weeks, no one is saying 3.5, no one is saying 4. That's the answer. The athlete sees it, we're all on one page. And we work from one program. We're devising one program. He's not taking little bits from here, here, and here. We're all filtering into this one athlete with one program. That's everyone on the same page, steering that ship in the one direction. Our system, we have 3 phases to our system. We have an acute phase, the early doors in that rehab process, which is predominantly led by the physiotherapy department. We then move on to our general training phase. This is where we start to ramp up training, where we're working on general physical capacities that the player is going to need in order to move back into field-based training, into squad sessions. And the final phase is going to be the rugby training phase, where he's going to be doing his squad sessions, and the rugby coaches are now looking after this training, but is being heavily monitored by all the rest of the departments at the same time. With these 3 phases, we use 7 trainable components. And the 7 components are up here on the left-hand side here. We use strength, plyometrics, on-feet speed, agility, contact, and rugby. Each component builds on each other, and they complement each other. And a player, and to note, very important note for us, right, is in week 1, each component can be catered for. So yet again, we're giving the player a massive psychological boost here. He's completing a lot early days in his rehab. And for example, let's take a prop forward who is after taking a lower body injury. In his rugby, in that week 1, he can start working on his mental skills. He can start working on his mental skills and even his static skills. So for him with the lower body injury, it could be seated passing. He then is going to progress onto his positional specific work. So this position, that prop forward, he needs to be good at scrummaging. So now we're integrating him back into scrummaging. And this is further going to progress on to moving him back into squad training. This is his sport specific things. He's in with the squad. And another example here, right, of early days, we're going to use the agility component. So as Aidan has comprehensively gone through our speed system here, we will use a lateral element to it in early days. So that could be as simple as a low-level lateral march. So Aidan's ask protocol, ankle, shin, knee. So we'll start off with the ankle, but we're moving laterally now as we're moving into the agility command. That is going to be progressed on to our closed agility pattern. So we're on the field, the player is given a predetermined route to go at. That further on moves to the open agility pattern. So this is the randomness, there is no predetermined route, we're getting sport specific and we're using the position and the positional requirements to target this. And I've put together the video example of levels 2 and 3 of the agility. So the player in question here at the start is Conor Murray. He's our number 9, he's our scrum half, and he's going to start at a very early stage, level 2 here. So that's a predetermined route for it. We're going to work on him attacking this at a higher intensity as well as increasing the degree of turn. To add complexity to it, we add multiple changes of direction. So here you see it with the Y pattern. And to further progress this, we need to get into that level 3, we need to go open agility. Now Simon is going to react to the coach's call. That's the first element to it. And to move back into specific work, one-on-one, he's going to take on another athlete. In this case, we have the coach who's going to challenge him. We're putting the ball in play. And now he's just going to have to react. Simon here is going offensive, we're going to challenge him defensive as well, but we'll get to a stage where he'll have to go up against multiple players just before he walks back into squad training. And just to take a look at the other components and how they are progressed through. And important to note here, right, each component, as you'd see, right, we take a systematic approach in progressing them on. And we base them around the principles of fitness, primarily progressive overload. So we do it in this very safe and effective manner. I'm just going to get you to hone in on the on-feet one here, alright? This is returning the player to running, alright? In that level 1, we're going to work at speeds below 70% of his maximal aerobic speed. That's that MAS there. So we test the squad, we fitness test the squad, and one thing we test them for is maximal aerobic speed. So we have information on him, we're going to keep him below that threshold. So he's just getting back to jogging there. We'll progress that on to developing the physical capacities, these fitness levels that he's going to need to go onto the pitch. So now we're working between 70 and 100% of that. And finally, in our sport-specific conditioning here, we're taking game variables and training variables that we've tracked through a GPS system, and now we're going to make up our conditioning conditions to be 100% sure we have this player well conditioned, if not above where he should be, to move back into squad training. An example of the variables we look at. We're only looking at 4 variables here now. We track a lot of them. So from the left hand side there you see meters per minute. It's a marker of density around the training session or the match. We have our conditioning meters, which we base off a percentage of their maximum aerobic speed, so it's a marker of intense running. Our high speed running is our quality running marker, and contacts, obviously because we are a contact sport. This is something very important to us that we need to get back. We need to be able to tolerate contact. It is a violent, vicious sport, and we need to target to be able to go back in there and tolerate a lot of it. So that's our system. So how do we implement this on a day-to-day basis? So in our planning process, we get an injury. We as a team, so that's all the departments again, physiotherapy, nutritional, psychology, strength conditioning, we switch into our mini pre-season mode. And the first thing we do is we call a meeting between the departments. And each department gathers as much information as they have on that athlete, pertinent to their own area, brings it to the table. And out of this meeting we formulate 2 plans. And the first is going to be a non-injury specific plan. So this is us developing the complete athlete. This is us focusing on areas, how can we improve him? How can we bring him back better than what he actually left the field in? Because that opportunity is there for us. And the second one is going to be his injury specific plan. So how do we actually bring the injury back? So looking at the first, alright, what comes from the first is this. So you have each department on the left hand side. So I'm going to work from the top here. At the table, the rugby coaches have said, for this player, this player is a hooker, okay? He's a front row forward. This is going to be a 12-week injury. He's not expected back on field training until week 9, okay? He's going to start working on his line out throwing immediately. So it's a static skill. So the coaches have come to the table and said, that's it, we have an opportunity, we're going to go for that. We need him to be very proficient at that in order to improve his game. And they're going to action plan it through actually using the static skills with the forwards coach. The physiotherapy department, the player had a previous injury on the opposite side. They're going to relieve the tendinopathy in the non-injured limb. That's their opportunity. And how they're going to do it is actually working their own treatment, their own rehab program, and a program between the strength conditioning department as well. From my own department, we bring our athletic profiling to the table. And from that, we have deemed that this player, for us to affect his game in a positive manner, it's his aerobic conditioning we're going to target. And obviously, with that lower limb injury, he can't be on his feet. So we're going to go off-feet conditioning with him. With the nutritionist is going to increase lean mass and reduce fat mass. How is she going to do it? She's going to implement an education plan and educate this player on how he should be doing, how he should be implementing his best practice around his own nutrition plan on a daily basis. The mental side of it. So we have the mental skills coach at the table. He's going to work closely with the rugby coaches, and he's going to get the player to get a good mental energy around throwing very, very accurate line-out throws. And how he's going to do it, he's going to implement an education plan as well and make sure the player understands what mental imagery is and perfects the skill. So before he throws, he sees it. And the lifestyle is involving the player. So the player is the most important here. In his life, he's got college exams. So we need to be conscious of this. That's an extra stress, so we need to make sure that that stress doesn't get too high, because it's going to put a negative vibe to his rehab process. So we're going to help him and action plan this, and we're going to put inside his schedule a lot of times for it. So that's developing the whole athlete. That's our non-injury specific plan there. Two things come out of this for us, okay? Number one, it focuses the athlete immediately. Gives him a focus. He knows what he's going for. He sees it. It's presented back to him. There's nothing ever hidden from him. The second one is going to focus us, the staff. Because all these goals are going to guide our program heavily. The next is, how do we bring him back to play? So now we need the plan around his injury. So we're looking at a 12-week plan. It's an upper body injury here, okay? And it's a back row forward. The physiotherapists and the medical department have given us information as we best estimate that his rehab process is going to take 12 weeks. And the 12 we have up here. The next is, we put a best estimate as to how long in each phase is that athlete going to spend. So we have the acute phase, week 1 to 4, the general, week 5 to 8, and finally in the rugby training phase, week 9 to 12. Our next question here is, how do we know when to move from acute to general and general to rugby? As we're only best estimating here. So we need to put exiting criteria behind this. So for that player to move from the acute phase to general training phase, he's going to have to perform his shoulder external and internal rotation test with the medical department and physiotherapy department. Once he does it, he moves into general training. Once in general training, that gives us the opportunity to ramp up training. Now we can actually start on his upper body strength program, his general strength training. We can start ramping everything else as well. To move from general training to rugby training, it's going to be a contact-based session. Because in the rugby training phase, we're moving back into squad sessions. And it is an upper body injury. There are many other tests that bring us to that point. He's going to have his isokinetic test. He's going to have to pass it before he goes in there. His speed, his max velocity is going to have to be above 90%. His open agility is going to have to be above 90%. His strength is going to have to be above 80% before we can go it. But the limiting factor for him to move back into training, as it is a contact-based sport, even though it might be a non-contact session he goes into, it's still random. We do not know if he's going to get hit or not. He might, his contact. And that contact level 2 is based around hitting shields, a standalone session. And we'll use a GPS, we know how many contacts he should be getting, we'll make sure he can get through it, we'll make sure he can tolerate it. That puts us into the rugby training phase. And lastly, how do we go from this phase into playing the game? As we move to the final level of contact here, contact level 3. This is live tackling. As we talk about bone on bone. We need to make sure that the player can tolerate being tackled, tackling, moving into positions like a post position, which is very specific to those forwards when they're in the breakdown area. We need to make sure he can be strong in there. He can tolerate it. Once he does that, he then completes a full week of training, and once he tolerates that, he gets his green card and to go play the game. We know we're safe. Now, behind all this, how do we build the components together to get us there? So here down the left-hand side, we have our components again. Okay? As a visual, it's pretty easy to make out, right? We need red to go to amber and amber to go to green. Once we're in green, once we're all in green, we're good to go. That player is good to go. This is a strong visual for the rugby coaches alone. Many departments are going to have a good handle on this. The physiotherapy department are going to have a good handle on it. The strength and conditioning department, the medical department, they're going to understand this when they see it. When the rugby coaches see it, and this is filling up block by block, all they're looking at is it green, is it green, is it green, when is it green, we want the player back. So as a visual, it's very strong for them and the athletes. Yet again, he's not going to understand too much of the detail behind it. So if we just focus down on the bottom left-hand side, okay, we're starting in at strength, level 1, immediately. We're working on control, we're working on stability. Physiotherapists are working very, very hard in that first 2 weeks to give the rest of an opportunity to go into level 1 plyo, on-feet, speed and agility. So looking at that speed and agility, yet again, you're looking at those lower-level linear and lateral drills. Then we're moving on, moving them to amber. And once we get up to this area here, this is the important area for the athlete and the rugby coach. We need this 2 to go to 3. Even though he's only just completed 2 here, we'll still give him 2 weeks more because he needs to be repping it out. He needs to be repping it out. And it would be foolish of us to just go 2 straight in and give him 2 or 3 weeks of 3 live contact. It would be foolish of us to do it. It's just not good practice. Whereas we make sure he can tolerate a lot of it before moving in here. We have 1 full week of training. This is also a full week of training. At the back end of it is the game. But this is where our loading comes in. We're actually ramping up and we make sure we pull back to give that player as much of an opportunity as he possibly can to perform at the highest level. So this is a general plan that we formulate between us. And we need to put detail behind it. We need to prescribe on a weekly basis. We need to go into the detail of each component. So here we have the week. Every morning when players come in, they come in and they do their subjective and objective markers. So we get information on them, we know how they present in the morning, and if we need to action anything, we can do it immediately. So they do the morning markers. The next session they go into is their movement preparation session. And that session is designed solely to prep them for the upcoming session. Whether it's going to be a strength session, a speed session, or an off-feet session. And we split the day into AM and PM. So we have our AM training here. And I just want you to focus in on Monday, right? So that player is going to do plyometrics level 2, speed level 2, and agility level 2 in the AM. They're not 3 separate sessions, that's just the order in which they flow through one session. In our PM, we're going to have the player doing a lot of strength. So now we're doing lower body strength in the PM. And as you can see, right, that this is a jam-packed schedule for the player. And it serves multiple purposes for us. Keeps the player busy, but more importantly, we believe that this is the amount of work, this is the amount of volume. We control the intensity, of course, that we need to put into the player in order to build that complete athlete again. So keep thinking the complete athlete. We are bringing back a better machine than what he came into us. And around all this, we need to make sure, yet again, the departments are working well, we're working efficiently, we're communicating. So we have an entry meeting in the morning and an exit meeting in the evening. And that is predominantly between the physiotherapy department and the strength and conditioning department. But then twice during the week, the rugby coaches come in, so we can feed back into them, give them an update how the player is, and the doctor is going to come in as well. The nutritionist will come in at the back end of the week, make sure his week is going well, look to the next week and plan it out. So that's how we deal with the weekly. That's the detail behind putting the week. This is flexible as well, depending on how he presents in the morning. We can push it one day, and we can accelerate if needs be. So summarising our process up around our strategies for return to play. So number one, right, when they get injured, that opportunity is there. It is a massive coaching opportunity for all of us. And the most vital thing is we create a massive positive environment around that athlete. This is it. This is not a negative for you, young man. We are actually going to make you better. And if we work hard enough, and if we communicate hard enough, and we put the correct system in place, then we can develop that complete athlete. And that then shows to him that that backroom staff is one team. We're not separate entities. No, we have separate labels on us, like physiotherapy and medical. We're not. We're one team. We work together. We work very closely together. And it is all about making sure that we are doing justice to the player. We give him everything we have. Thank you.
Thanks, PJ. Any specific questions?
Yeah, you're all about the cycles there and going from, say, hitting the pads to full contact. Say you had like a cup final and the player hadn't gone through completed the program, but he said to you, look,